Coming up today, did the straw bale garden work as we had hoped? We'll explain all of that and some of the recommendations of tomatoes that we would suggest you try in your garden. All that and more coming up today on the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener. The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener is sponsored in part by, for all your non-GMO, heirloom, organic, vegetable, flowers, and herb seeds, visit dollarseed.com. Sioux Growing Supply, located in Wausau, Wisconsin, focusing on certified leaf compost, an excellent amendment for poor soil. With their new garden blend, improving soil structure in clay and sandy soil, great for creating new garden beds. Also available from Sioux's, pre-filled trays and pots with professional potting soil mix or organic rice hull-based potting soil mix. Bag and bulk of certified leaf compost also available. Visit SiouxGrowingSupply.com. Don't poison your soil with municipal water. Attach a body, mind, and soil hose and filter. Free shipping exclusively through the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com. Just click on the body, mind, and soil icon. Authentic Haven brand soil conditioner for the home gardener. Easy to brew, 100% organic. Visit ManureTea.com. Rain Reserve. Reserving your rain, preserving our future. Rain Reserve, manufacturing of rainwater capturing capabilities. Visit rainreserve.com and use coupon code RAIN2016 to save 10% on your total purchase. Welcome to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener. I'm Joy Baird. We are in the straw bale garden, and we've done the straw bale garden. We've got 5 straw bales, and this is just general wheat straw. You can use a number of varieties of straw, barley, oats. There's a couple of different varieties there. You want to go straw instead of hay if you're going to do this type of gardening, simply because straw is the byproduct or the stalk of the plant, and hay is designed for a foliage or a feed for animals that contain a number of weed seeds. You can use hay, but it's really recommended for straw. And if you want to find more information out, we have the Straw Bale Garden Book from Joel Carson available on our website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com. You can get it there. So what we're going to kind of go through and grade what we have got going on here. Now, we decided to grow our winter squash and melons in the straw bales, strictly because the premise is that they require a lot of moisture in order to develop and grow successfully. We have tried growing them in other methods, just traditional ground or in bags of compost, and just simply did not work very well. So we decided to go with this method, and we've got irrigation on the straw bales, and that also has caused some problems, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But overall, this has worked very, very well. And I would recommend, if you're going to do or attempt to grow squash or cucumbers or melons in a method, it would be the straw bale garden method. Now, we'll start up here. We've got a pink banana squash as well as a green Hubbard squash. The pink banana squash just didn't take off as well as I had hoped, but we do have a small green Hubbard squash that at some point will be ready to go. You can see it's close to a volleyball size. We still have a lot of time here before our first average frost. We got about 30 days. So the intentions are that we'll have something. Now, successfully, a Hubbard squash should be about 30 to 50 pounds, but this one will maybe be about 5 pounds, and that would be perfectly enough for one meal with 2 people. So that has worked okay. Now, that came out of a bale that's 2 years old. Typical straw bales or straw bale gardens will last 1 year successfully. 2 years is about the limit, but we're going to see if we can get a little bit more out of it, and then once the bale has deteriorated, you can just use it as mulch, you can throw it in your compost pile, that type of thing. So what we have here is we have butternut squash, and we, again, with the irrigation system I talked about, there's some problems with the above irrigation system. Ideally, if we had to do it again, now we only have certain irrigation in certain places simply because that's what has worked out for us. We would run irrigation as a drip through the, on each bale. That would be the ideal method of irrigation if you're going to go that route. Again, you don't have to have irrigation. You can simply water this manually and it will work fine. But we have the above irrigation system, and we've got some problems with powdery mildew. Now, this is not the result of the above ground watering, simply because we have powdery mildew in other forms of the garden, in the drip irrigation system in the front yard raised bed, as well as other zucchinis that have not been irrigated at all in other portions. So that is a result. Now, it's simply because the leaves stay wet at nighttime and the fungus or the powdery mildew begins to form, and it doesn't have proper time to dry out. It's real humid at night and it's not drying out. There are home remedies on how to eliminate, reduce, control your powdery mildew. Essentially what is occurring is the mildew is preventing the sun from the plant from absorbing the sun and growing, doing the photosynthesis. So that's what you're wanting to do. You're wanting to wipe that powdery mildew off. Now, if you have minimal infected areas, you can remove about 25% of the leaves, and that's what we did here a couple of weeks ago. We cut a lot of this leaves back, and people will say, do you compost it, do you burn it, do you throw it in the trash? Well, different people say different things. Essentially what it is, it's an airborne spore, or it's aerobic, so it would break down and correctly, successfully, if you have a hot enough compost pile. But if you feel that that's something you don't want to put in your compost pile, then you can go ahead and dispose it in the municipal trash or burn it, whatever you want to do. But that's a decision you have to make. So we've got butternut squash, we've got spaghetti squash, we've got several of them developing quite well as we have a watermelon here. And it's not, you know, your typical store-bought watermelon, but it's about, palm size, 3 pounds or so, and we'll harvest this in a little while. We want to make sure it's completely ripe. So that's the first time we've ever successfully been able to grow watermelon. We do have some sugar baby watermelons here. The vine is being detached here, so I'm kind of thinking that's kind of the time that one's ready. This one still needs a little developing time, as well as we still have small ones here that are the size of a large ping pong ball, which are not going to get ready before frost. And we also have cantaloupe here, and we have vines going into our corn patch as well as back into our tomato jungle. Now, this is just one form of a successful patch. Here's a butternut squash here that's getting ready to harvest. Small in size, some are large. We got 2 or 3 of each. Now, at the sister-in-law's backyard garden, we have a tremendous amount of spaghetti as well as butternut squash in straw bales, done very well. So if you've never gardened in a straw bale, it doesn't have to be winter squash. You can put a variety of different things in the straw bale: tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, beans. There is some things you want to avoid. That's all covered in the book that's available on the website. So with straw bale gardening, we definitely can do it again and again. We will expand this probably next year. Now, a question that we've got recently on the forum or on our email, and if you have a question in regards to gardening, you can send us an email. The link is, or the email address is in the show notes, as well as on our website under the right-hand side with the big red button that says question. Can I purchase straw bales in the fall so I can use them in the spring? Because a lot of times the fall festival parties, the Halloween parties, you use straw bales, hay rides. You can purchase them in the fall. Now, here's one thing you want to keep in mind. You can purchase them in the fall, and if you know where you're going to put them in the spring, or where you're going to permanently put them, let's say we bought these this fall, and this is where we're going to garden with in the spring, then we would go ahead and put them here and let the bales set over winter, and then condition the bales to use in the spring. If you're not certain of where you're going to place your bales at in the spring, you can purchase them in the fall, but you want to put them in a barn, in a garage, in a shed, or if you're going to leave them outside, you want to cover them up with a tarp, simply because they're going to absorb water very rapidly, and they're going to be extremely heavy to move come springtime. But if that's why you'd want to store them somewhere. If you know where you're going to put them in the garden in the spring, you can buy them in the fall and then place them in the garden in the fall and let them set there, and then you do your conditioning in the spring. As well as if you're in a neighborhood or in a municipality like we are here in the city, right after Halloween, right after that kind of early November, people will put their straw bales from their decorations on the curb, and you can go by and pick them up, and that's where we got a couple of bales at last year. So when it comes to straw bale gardening, if it's not something you've ever done, consider it. It's worked very well for us. So a few months ago, we intercropped some great northern white beans in amongst our potatoes. We had a late crop of potatoes we planted, and you can see the potatoes. Some of them are starting to die back here. We've got irrigation on them. Here's a potato here. But in the middle, we did some beans, some hard shell beans. And now some of them are at the stage that they're ready to be harvested. Now, you can do two different ways of harvesting this. You can just let them be and wait until the end of the season, dig the potatoes up, or whatever, whenever the beans are ready, you know, at the end of the season, you can harvest them, bring them in, and do it that way. The other method, which I would recommend, simply because if you have a lot of moisture, it can affect the beans inside the shell, or inside the husk. So these beans have got a dry texture to them. You can see here, because of the amount of moisture, we do have some darkening there, and that's the potential start of mold. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and go through this bed and harvest any of the beans that are in a state of paper-like husk. So we'll just open them up, and you can see the beans here. They are moist. These are not beans, or they're not dry. So what we want to do is we want to get them out of the husk, simply because the moisture is you know, we're getting a lot of rain, and we can just put them on a paper plate, set them in a room off to the side with ambient light, normal room house temperature for a couple of weeks, and you will see they'll slightly change, get a little smaller because they'll dry out. But we want to get them out of the garden, because dry seeds in the house is far better than wet, soggy, moldy seeds in the garden here. And then once they are dry, you can also, you don't have to wait. If you're going to use these for cooking, you can use them right away. You don't have to let them dry to the state of hard, and then you have to re-soak them. But if you're going to save them for seed, you'd let them dry to their as dry as they can be. But again, we want to go through, we want to remove any of the husk or the beans that have been dried, simply because I don't want them to mold in the garden. So try that out. If you're intercropping with hard shell beans, now if you're growing regular edible pod beans, green beans, purple pod beans, yellow green beans, you want to harvest them when they're small so you can eat them and they're not tough because the seed is getting developed inside of it. So there's a lot of tomatoes that you can grow in your garden. There's projected in the world, there's about 5 to about 10,000 different varieties of tomatoes that one can grow in your own garden. Now, not all of them are commercially available. Some of them have been changed or cross-pollinated from year to year on some common varieties that you know, certain individuals have, and they've created their own specific variety for their garden. But we've got a couple of varieties. We grow 27 different varieties of tomatoes in our garden. All but one is one of those is a hybrid. It's an early grow, and we got that because we were starting seeds for an individual a couple of years back. But besides that, all 26 other ones are organic and heirloom varieties. So first thing you want to decide, and it seems like a common sense question, but you want to ask yourself, what is the main intentions of what I'm going to use the tomatoes for? If you're going to use them for canning, you want to really avoid the small little cherry ones, because that's a pain to try to peel, and that's one of the major contributing factors when you're canning tomatoes is you need to peel them. So that's one thing. Now, if we have a variety of cherry, medium size to beefsteak tomatoes in our garden. So here are some that we would recommend if you've never grown. They've done very well for us. The tried and true go-to every year is the black Creme tomato, as well as the Cherokee purple tomato. Both of them are very similar in color and structure, but they do phenomenal no matter if it's a wet year or if it's a dry year. They do very, very well. They're very good sized tomatoes, and they're pleasing to the eye as well, and they're very, very juicy, very tasty in that manner. Another one is the Brandywine varieties of tomatoes. There's black Brandywines, pink Brandywines, red Brandywines, yellow Brandywines. This is a pink Brandywine. They get very large. This is a 1 pound, 1 ounce tomato. Now, they don't produce as heavily as some of the new hybrid varieties do, but what you do get, you lack in quantity you make up in quality of the tomato because of the juiciness and the flavor intensity, and they're very good for canning or just eating raw, slicing up, just eating like that. One smaller variety of tomato is the green zebra. There also are red zebras, and they get, they're about large golf ball size, or a good golf ball size tomato. That's about the maximum size of them. So, they're very pleasing, very nice color, and you'll see that they're ripe whenever they kind of get a little more of a yellow tint to it, and the dark green zebra stripes on them, and the same type goes for the red zebra variety as well. A good tried and true for any garden is the Roma Tomato. That grows pretty much anywhere. The San Marino tomato is more climate, it grows better in more of a tropical Mediterranean type of growing area. So when if you're close to a ocean or a lake, that may do very well for you, but the true Romas do excellent for us anytime, anywhere we grow. One that we've played around with this year that we didn't last year, this is a smaller variety. It's the Yordle German yellow tomato, I believe is the name of it. It can get very large. This is a little overripe. It's got more of an orange pigment to it, but it's a yellow tomato, very good, a lot of meat in it. That's another one. Now, one that we grew for the very first time this year is this. It is called a giant white tomato. Even though it's more of a cream color, this thing is such a sweet tomato when eaten. You do have snowball or white cherry tomatoes, which are not nearly as sweet as the giant white tomato. And when you slice it open, it's really pretty, and it's got a lot of meat. It's very, very sweet compared to the other varieties that have been mentioned already. And another one that we grew for the very first time is a Pecha Tomato. And that's about what it gets, or a Pecha Tomato. It kind of has a very tiny amount of what you would call peach fuzz on it. Very small, but almost all meat. There is some seed pockets in there, but that's about the size of it. It's similar to the green zebra. So this is more of an eating tomato versus I would consider a canning tomato, but it does work. We have canned them. So that's just some of the recommendations that we would suggest if you were going to grow tomatoes for the very first year, or if you've never grown any of those varieties. Those would all be good for different reasons and purposes as well. Another prolific one is the yellow plum tomato, very heavily producing cherry variety type of tomato. So you can go to the list on our website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com, underneath the tomato tab, and it'll list all the varieties that we do grow. And each year, tomatoes are one of these things when people say, what variety should I grow? I tell them, what are you looking for to use them for? Do some research to find out what specific varieties do better in your area, because some do better in hot climates, some do better in colder climates, as well as take a moderate number, maybe 5 or 6, and try them. And if they work well, keep the 5 best ones, and each year try to find another 1 or another 2 to incorporate into your garden, because you're never going to grow all of them. Stick with a core that works very well for you for what your intentions are, and grow them in your garden, whether raised bed, traditional ground garden, or container gardening. Thanks for joining us. Join us again next time for more organic gardening and food preserving. I'm Joy Barrett. This has been the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.